Welcome to another Japanese from Zero Ask a Teacher Live, where we answer your questions about Japanese after the Japanese daily broadcast. Well, today we had a lot of things happen and time has run short, so I didn't take the time that I normally do to prepare a presentation, but I have some good questions and I'd like to try to answer them all, even though I just said I was going to do two. Here we go. First question is from Aichan95. She says, George, have you ever had that moment when you started getting better at your Japanese and then you felt you could do no wrong? Never. Honestly, never. Even now, I know that I can say pretty much anything I want, but is there a better way to say things all the time? Yeah, even when I'm interpreting, sometimes I feel like my Japanese is not as tight as it could be. I think it's like, for example, if you're doing sports, like my daughters talk about this because they're cheerleaders, right? So they're cheerleading and they'll say, it was good, but it wasn't tight. Like they're saying their body wasn't, they're more like kind of like that, but they did the jump, they landed it, right? But they didn't feel good about it. So that happens a lot. And I sort of try my best to pay attention and not assume that I know everything. So there's never been a day that I feel like I can do no wrong. Now, if I'm competing with somebody, I think I get into that mode. If I feel like my superiority is being challenged, yeah, I'll get psyched up and think I'm the best. But I never really honestly think I'm the best. I know there's someone out there better than me. And frankly speaking, I watch these shows more than you guys. I've watched every video I've ever made more than once. And I see the mistakes, and I go, But on the other hand, if I was worried about the mistakes, I wouldn't have one video on Yes Japan. I challenge you to watch a video and find one that I don't have a mistake in. If you look at any comments on YouTube, for example, someone always inevitably finds the mistake. And even in the last Japanese Topics Mania, I made a mistake in my correction. So it happens. No, I always do wrong. Thank you for the question. Great question. All right. This question is from Mystery Repeats. Hi, George. I've been wondering how it was for your wife to move to the USA. Wow. My wife is Japanese. It was a long time ago, but I do remember it being fairly stressful. When she first came, I've talked about this before, but hey, what the heck, let me talk about it again. She only had a bicycle when we first came. And I remember very early on, after we first moved into the apartment, I asked her to go to the store to get chopped ham and mustard. Ham and mustard. But I said, whatever you do, don't buy chopped ham, because I didn't like the chopped. I liked the actual sliced ham, right? So I came home, mustard was in the fridge, and ham was in the fridge, chopped ham. And I said to her, not in a mean way, but I just said, chopped hamu-jang, like that. Chopped hamu-jang. It's chopped ham, man. Literally, it's chopped, dude, it's chopped ham. And she cried. It was very stressful for her. So, and then I remember she said, I can't even buy ham. And I remember back then she couldn't even make a grilled cheese sandwich. It was pretty. I tried to show her, rice, not rice, but butter on one side and butter on the other, and and it was like this sloppy, gelatinous thing that came out. She didn't understand. Now let me just say this: we've been married about 18-ish, 17-ish years. She's like the most amazing cook. Literally, I love everything she makes, almost, unless it's that Japanese takuan. Ugh. I don't even know what that is in English. It's horrible. Okay. So it was a little bit tough, but she likes it now. But I think if I passed away, if I died, she'd probably move back to Japan because she still doesn't speak a lot of English. My fault, right? Because I speak Japanese. That's all she's ever needed. I think it's a bad thing. I wish it was the other way around. I actually said to her this morning, I said, hey, maybe you should learn some English. She's not horrible, but what if I passed away? So we'll see. I'm not sure if that's what you were looking for, but that is my answer. Thank you for the question. Next question is from Sephiroth. And he says, can you please explain the shinakereba naranai desu ending. Let me first say, I do not like when not yet amazing speakers do that nine desu format because it sounds pretentious. Yaranakereba naranai desu. It's like, it's almost like forcing a natural sound. Japanese do it all the time, right? But it doesn't have to be done that way. It's a contraction, and I don't like it early on. If you're amazing, you might be. For example, ashita ikanai desu. I don't like it. It's just me personally. Remember, my opinion is just my opinion, but I would prefer that it was shinakereba naranai desu. The 9 desu. Every time I hear a beginning Japanese student do that, it's like, oh God, really? Did you just, as a Japanese person, for example, it'd be the similar of saying, oh, sorry, it's my bad. It's my bad. You know, that's just awkward, right? It's awkward to say my bad when your English isn't like really high level. Oh, my bad, my bad. You got to have a sort of a black accent almost to make the, you got to have the black hip, you know, yeah, my bad, my bad. You know, you got to have a little bit of a twinge in there, but you don't get that, right? So even the 9 desu, I just don't like. But let me explain now that I'm done being racist. Let's explain shinakereba narimasen, all right? It's must do it, all right? I have to eat, for example. Tabenakereba narimasen, I have to eat. But that's a really long way to say it. Let's do the long way a couple more times with some other verbs. Ikanakereba narimasen, I have to go. Shinakereba narimasen, I have to do. And your naranai desu version is just another way to say narimasen, right? Must do. Don't think about the grammar behind it, because it's literally, if I do it narimasen, it won't become something. It makes no sense grammatically. Just remember it as a straight pattern. So let's say you have to read a book for college. Yomanakereba narimasen. But there's other ways to say I have to do something. Let's take the same yomu to read. Yomanakereba narimasen, I have to read. Yomanakya, very short, yomanakya. I must read it. Yomanakya dame. You have to read it. I have to read it. Much more straight. Yomanaito dame. I have to read it another way. Yomanaito ikenai. I have to read it. Yomanaito ikenai. So, as you can see, there's a lot of ways to do the I have to do it. This is just happens to be the longest way to do it. Hello, it's George from the future. I'm sorry my voice is a little bit shot. Yesterday was Thanksgiving, and I spent a little bit too much time talking. In this video from 2013, we had a question about shinakereba naranai desu. But it wasn't just naranai desu. I railed about the use of desu, but I never really explained what desu does at the end. So I want to take that moment. I want to take this moment just to explain it. So we're going to open up book 5. Don't look for it on YouTube. Don't look for it on Amazon because it doesn't yet exist yet. But here's some grammar that I wrote for this. It's confirmation and reasons using this grammar called nan desu. We're calling it nan desu because sometimes it's nan and sometimes it's just un. It can be both, and that's why the na is in parentheses. And I'll just read from what I wrote here. As with any grammar, you have to know how the grammar works with nouns, e-adjectives, na-adjectives, and verbs. This is true with any grammar because the way that grammar connects to a noun is different than the way it connects to a e-adjective or a na-adjective and the verb. Sometimes it can be the same, but often it is not. For example, always use desu with verbs, nouns, and all adjectives. That is the base rule that you make it desu, except that there are times when you make it nan desu, and that is with present positive tense nouns. Present positive meaning it is a dog, not it was a dog, or it isn't a dog. Those become desu. But with positive it is something, it becomes nan desu. And na adjectives. We all know what those are, I hope. So let's go ahead and look. Everything except positive positive present tense nouns and na adjectives use desu. For example, mensetsu nan desu. It's an interview. Mensetsu janai desu. Do you see how now that we are negative, even though this is a noun, it's now a negative noun, so it becomes desu. Mensetsu janai desu. And past tense is the same. Mensetsu dattan desu. And if you had
negative past tense would also be, 面接じゃなかったんです. Okay? All right? And there's just more examples. But let's look at what we use this for. You'll see that everything else, by the way. Everything here for e-adjectives, verbs are all using undes. Okay, this is a little bit too much for me to do in a quickie lesson, but we'll go ahead and have book 5 videos after book 4 videos are completed. So, nandes has a few uses. The first we will learn is when asking for confirmation or providing a reason. For example, you saw your classmate packing her backpack in the middle of the day at school. You want to know if she's going home or not. Kairun desu ka? It's like saying, is it that you're going home? I looked at the situation and I'm wondering, is it that you're going home? Is that why you're packing up your bag? Kairun desu ka? Okay, you're wanting a confirmation. Hai, atama ga itai desu. She's expressing a reason for going. It's that my head hurts. Atama ga itai desu. Now, in English, the translation doesn't change. All that changes is the feeling of the nuance of what she's saying. It gives a little bit more emotion to it, okay? Here you go. Nandes changes the tone, but not the meaning of the sentence. So upon noticing a friend's child studying for a test, itsu testo ga arun desu ka? A is assuming that B has a test. A being who's ever asking, right? They're assuming. So, oh, you have a test? It was like in English we say, oh, you have a test? It's like that kind of a feeling. Oh, you have a test? Testo ga arun desu ka? Oh, you have a test? Ashita nan desu. It's tomorrow. Okay? Let's look a little bit more here. Okay? Now, notice that in the beginning of each of these scenarios, we are giving you context because context is extremely important to know when to use this nandes construct, okay? Upon seeing a neighbor that owns a car taking the bus, that makes no sense. Why would someone take a bus if they have a car? どうして車を運転しないんですか? How come you're not driving your car? 奥さんが使ってるんです. You could even have a little yo in the end. 奥さんが使ってるんですよ. Oh, it's my wife. She's using it. Okay? Okay, upon hearing a friend is going to Kyoto, A knows that B is going to Kyoto and is curious why. Okay? どうして京都へ行くんですか? Why is it that you are going to Kyoto? Okay? How come you're going? 京都のお寺が好きなんです. I like the temples in Kyoto. It's that I like the temples in Kyoto. Upon seeing a friend crying, which would be a little bit shocking, right? どうしたんですか? どうしたんですか? What's the matter? Here there's no assumption. It's just like, oh my gosh, what's the matter? Right? Notice that the English sentence doesn't change. What happened? Okay? お腹が痛いんです. It's that my stomach hurt. That is the reason. So undes is used to show reason a lot of times. Okay? Now we can also use nandes to show emphasizing. When you want to show a bit of emotion or emphasis, you can use nandes. 日本の夏はどうですか? How is the summer in Japan? 蒸し暑いんです. It's so muggy. 寒いんです. It's so cold. Okay? So as you can see, there are several reasons, and we go further on the lesson to talk about, well, if you're showing a reason, what's the difference between nandes versus kara? We talk about that. But I wanted to make sure that I covered a little bit George of the future. I think can explain undes a little bit better than George of the past. So I apologize for that. Now let's go back in time, 5 years in the past to 2013. Bye.
Okay, thank you for that question. Next question is from Unko-kun. Unko-kun says, is it bad form to use double negatives in Japanese? The answer is yes, like it is in English. If someone says, watashi wa, and I really don't like that he used this word. I'll give you a little bit of history. He says, omoshikunai desu. There is a guy named Pixel, who's a longtime Yes Japan member, and he made a typo in the forum one day, in the chat room. He said, omoshikunai, or he said omoshikunai when he was on camera, and he was meaning to say omoshirokunai, not interesting. But he said omoshikunai. And I gave him the 3rd degree about it being wrong because I was in a bad mood. I was like, dude, you've been studying Japanese for 10 years. You've been married to a Japanese wife for like the same amount of time, and you got omoshirokunai wrong? That's what I was doing, right? Then I said, just to be curious, let me look up what omoshi means. Turns out there's some dialect in a prefecture that omoshiroi is omoshi. Head explode, right? Because now it's a correct thing. Someone even made one of those meme pictures with me saying omoshi, right? So my rant turned out to be wrong. And it turns out you could say omoshikunai apparently to mean not interesting. But I'm going to warn you, you're never going to meet someone that knows that. I think it'll be very rare that you meet someone who knows that, because I already forgot what prefecture it was. I've never heard it. I think the rare Japanese person will know that omoshi means omoshiroi. Now, what he says is, can you say omoshirokunakunai? You can. Let me explain what it means. Omoshirokunai, isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting? Notice how that's a negative way of asking, is it interesting? You could say omoshiroi. Omoshiroi desu ka? Is it interesting? Omoshirokunai desu ka? Isn't it interesting? Now it's like you're sort of suggesting that it is interesting. You believe it is interesting. And you're asking them, you're hoping they'll agree with you. So if I just say, omoshiroi desu ka? I want an actual opinion, right? Isn't it interesting? Or is it interesting? Sorry. But if I say, omoshirokunai desu ka? Omoshirokunai desu ka? Isn't it interesting? Or if I say it in a different way, omoshirokunai desu ka? Is it not interesting? But what if I double the negative? Omoshirokunakunai? I've heard this before. Me and Keiko have talked about it. It's not grammatically correct, but it's a fun way to make a negative of a negative. Omoshirokunakunakunai. You can do that. But does it mean anything? I don't know. I get lost in how many negatives there are. Is it not interesting? It's just as crazy as English. You don't know where to go with it. So that's my dumb answer. I have nothing else. I have nothing else to say on that one. Thank you for the question. All right, next question is final question. Oh, it's a good one because I don't remember what it is. This is a tough one. Okay. G. Exia says, how do you say I hope so or I hope you are doing well? Because we just had a daily broadcast talking about small talk. So I hope you're doing well when asking how someone is doing. And I said in response in the typing there was that isn't exactly a culturally said thing. What do I mean by that? Well, in English we say, I hope your mother is doing fine, right? Japanese typically don't say that, but there is a way to do I hope something blah blah blah. It's using the tara verb form. So you could say, wow, I hope I could go, right? I hope I can go. Iketara ii ne. It'd be great if you could go. Iketara ii na. It'd be great if I could go. I hope I can go. It has all of those all of those nuances, right? So I hope I can go. So it's tara ii. Genki dattara ii desu ne. It'd be great if they were genki, right? Genki dattara ii desu ne. And that can be translated to, I hope they're great. Hope they're doing well. It would be nice if they're doing well. So just use the tara form. That is the answer. All right. Thank you for watching Japanese from Zero Ask a Teacher Live. I'll see you on the next broadcast. Bye-bye. My tongue is very pained right now. All right.